because the White House is responding to rare bipartisan blowback after a video that included a racist clip of the Obamas depicted as monkeys. That was posted on President Trump's social media account on Friday morning. The White House initially brushed off criticism of the video, but after a wave of backlash from his own party, the video was eventually taken down. It remained up on the president's account, though, for around 12 hours. Several Republican lawmakers spoke out against this post, among them Tim Scott of South Carolina, the only black Republican in the Senate, saying that the video is the most racist thing he's seen out of this White House, which, of course, portends that he's seen other racist things out of this White House. But we'll get to that in a moment. President Trump responded to the backlash on Air Force One and said he spoke with Senator Scott.
No, I didn't make a mistake. I mean, I look at a lot of thousands of things, and I looked at the beginning of it. It was fine. I guess it was a takeoff on The Lion King, and certainly it was a very strong post in terms of voter fraud. Nobody knew that that was at the end. If they would have looked, they would have seen it, and probably they would have had the sense to take it down. But that was a takeoff on The Lion King, and a lot of people were covered on in different positions. So, but I spoke to Tim Scott. He was great. Tim is a great guy. He understood that 100%.
What about the message to the many Americans who were offended by the video? What do you want to tell them?
Well, I have no message. I didn't know about it, so I mean, it went up. I really have no message. Somebody slipped and missed a very small part. Now, by the way, again, a takeoff on, I guess, I didn't do it, by the way. This was done by somebody else. This was a retruth. That was not done by us.
A retruth, an intern, someone. Despite some Republicans taking a stand, there were others who attempted to shield the president from criticism, including Senator Bill Cassidy, who is, of course, facing a tough re-election battle after President Trump endorsed his opponent. Cassidy actually thanked the president for removing the video. The White House first tried defending the post, which was mostly about inaccurate claims of voter fraud. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt dismissed the backlash as, quote, fake outrage and brushed off the clip as an internet meme meant to be a play on The Lion King, which is what Trump was saying. I want to bring in MS Now White House reporter Kayla Gardner, who's been doing a bunch of reporting on this weekend. Yeah. I also just want to level set here that when you see Tim Scott posting like that, the most racist thing to come out of this White House, again, it makes you question, okay, well, what other racist things have come out of this White House? Mm-hmm. But then also, Trump is still the very man who started the birther theory during President Obama's term in office. So I'm sorry, the idea that Republican senators are calling this out, yeah, they should, but none of this is new information about the president who, at best, is dabbling in these dark spaces of the internet and, at worst, is doing more.
By my count over the weekend, it was about at least 20 Republicans who had spoken out about the contents of this post. But most of them waited till after President Trump actually deleted the video. I think Tim Scott is the exception. Mike Lawler is the exception as well. But one of the things I thought was most telling is even after the White House deleted this video, allies of the president continued to criticize Republicans for speaking out against him. There is this mindset, and one of them was his son, Donald Trump Jr. Yep. There is this mindset in his orbit that Republicans should only criticize the president in private, that disagreements should not come out publicly, that people should pick up the phone. And yet, given the weight of how many people were offended by this clip, they were still criticizing Republicans who spoke out against it. So, and even then, I think a lot of the criticism was still very measured. People said, you know, I'm glad he took it down. You know, I hope that he apologizes. And the president did not apologize, even though he was specifically asked over the weekend by reporters. And he did condemn the contents of the post, but only, again, after he was asked specifically about it. But something that I really took away from this is I'm a night owl. The president posts sometimes dozens of times in the span of maybe an hour or two. What he described there is he is actually selecting posts. He says, I found this post about voter fraud. He asked a staffer who remains unnamed to post it. The person clearly was screen recording, captured that part of the video as well, posted it. But it's clear that he is actively on social media, following accounts that are pro-Trump and telling people to post them. Amongst the people that we know have had access to President Trump's personal social media account is Dan Scavino, Natalie Harp. Again, we don't know exactly who was the person who actually posted this, but it does say something about how he's up late at night, constantly consuming things that support his views.
But then also the way that Truth Social and the way that the president posts on social media, is basically the official White House megaphone
Totally.
now. So if Scavino, who has long had access to these accounts from the time that I started covering Trump in 2015, and now Natalie and some others have access to this account, yes, we know that the president has long been behind his own social media feed, but when this is the official White House line of communication with the country, are there not more guardrails in place to make sure that what it's saying is not racist or offensive or even just inaccurate?
Yeah, well, one nugget that our colleague Jake Trailer got that I think was also very telling, not just about this situation, but potentially others, particularly I think of Alex Preddy, is the White House essentially operates in lanes. People sometimes unilaterally make decisions, and that is one thing that he was told by a senior White House official, that initial statement from Caroline Leavitt was made without the approval of senior top officials. And it sounds like similarly that the president is, well, I suppose there was two lines of approval, him and then this person, but yeah, it seems that nobody caught this in his words and his description before it was posted. But nonetheless, it was up for 12 hours. The White House was made well aware of it hours before they actually chose to delete it. But yeah, this is not a normal White House, and clearly people are operating within their own lanes. And as that official told Jake, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, I would argue this is certainly an instance where it doesn't. Can I just underscore, when they saw this post, when they started seeing the backlash, did anyone think this is a very bad thing? Like, in your conversations with sources, was there any sense of like that moral clarity moment of like, oh my God, this is very bad?
I mean, I think it eventually got there, right? Like, that's why they took it down. The White House, I was frankly shocked that they took it down.
I know.
Remember, we have covered the government shutdown where they were posting memes of Hakeem Jeffries and, and Chuck Schumer wearing sombreros, and they only doubled down on it. There's a mindset that they should never cave to public pressure. So the fact that they deleted this video was that something sunk in here, that this was obviously a racist post. And anyone who could see that, I think Senator Ricketts said it in one of the most simplest ways, is just the fact that you can't just write this off as a Lion King meme. Anyone could see that it obviously had racist contexts. That imagery has been used to dehumanize Black Americans going back to slavery. So it seems that after 12 hours, that finally sunk in for them, that this was too serious to keep up.
I actually think you bring in some really important context there, right? The idea that I think for many of us Americans who are not in the White House and don't have a social media feed where we would ever amplify this kind of message, it is, I think, stunning to think that it took 12 hours. And yet you bring in the right context, which is that this is an administration that only ever doubles down. They never pull back. And I think it's notable that maybe that's what Republican outcry brought here, but still pretty shocking that we had to even look at a news cycle like this in the first place. MS Now White House reporter Akayla Gardner helping us at least get a better understanding of what it's like behind the scenes inside. Thank you.